Hey everyone, today I'm going to be looking over my Catenary system. I've been looking around on the internet for a long time trying to find people who have built Catenary systems in O-scale, and either A, they just use like a pre-made system like what MTH has, or B, they have a really masterfully crafted handmade system, but they don't really make videos about it or explain how they build it. So I've tried to create a catenary system that has a few objectives. One, it's inexpensive, so that's like price per foot of catenary wire and poles and whatnot. And that also actually works. Like, one could put power through it and rewire their engines so that they could pick up through overhead pantographs or trolley poles, and it would work perfectly fine. And also make it relatively durable so that it can have trains running under it at high speeds and without it moving visibly. It's taken a lot of steps to actually put this system together, but I think that this has turned out pretty good. When looking at a system, there's a lot to break down, but I think the first thing that I want to cover are the poles, because some people might just want to make poles for cosmetics and they don't even want to have a wire. So the first step is acquiring a whole ton of these. Telephone poles, you can get any manufacturers, Lionel, Marks. This is a Plasticville pole, and that's what I've been using because I have maybe more than like 40 of them. So you can use anything. You could even use a mix, but I would say just make sure that in the end your cross arms end up at the same height so that your wire will remain at a consistent height. The first set of modifications that I would recommend doing to your pole would be to add a little tile base. This kind of acts as your concrete base to give it a little more stability and weight in favor of staying upright. And you can probably get these at a hardware store. And the aluminum rod here, this is hollow, it's maybe used as a conduit, I'm not sure. But you can find this at a craft store, hardware store, that's where I found mine. You can get lengths of them for like a few bucks. It's really not that expensive. Now the attachment from our telephone pole to the rod, the first thing that I did was I cut off the little insulators and I sanded the cross arm of the telephone pole and the part that we're going to glue of the aluminum rod, and then I super glued them together. So that's already reasonably solid, but what I've done on a lot of these poles is I've reinforced that by taking wire. It's a stiff wire, I have a spool of it right here. I take this and I wrap it around the cross arm of the telephone pole and the cross arm of the catenary, and I just wrap that around really tight with a pair of needle nose pliers, and then I put a drop of super glue in a few places. And that is pretty solid. It's almost as if that is a single piece. Now what you can also do, and what I plan to do with some of mine, is just cut off the excess cross arms. I've left them on a lot of these because I just wanted to get a system working. And I hadn't fully decided if I wanted to cut off the cross arms on all of these. But you can use the remaining one as sort of a information line. Or if you see an electrified railroad, they don't just have the catenary wires, they have auxiliary wires for switches, signals, whatever reasons, and those are usually integrated into the catenary structures. So this is how I did mine. I just put these little glass beads where the insulators are, and those are the insulators, so I can eventually wrap thread around them. And then we'll have some communication lines. Now that's all well and good. There are tons of techniques for suspending a wire. I have some other plans for other areas of the layout that will have variations on this to get around specific engineering concerns. But this is like a stock standard pole that most people could use on their layouts. You could build a whole bunch of these and then set them up on a loop of track and you'd be good. Now the part that I actually ended up having the most challenge with was figuring out how I was going to do the wire, the contact wire. Again, the actual catenary wire, which is the second wire that kind of runs above the contact wire, I haven't put that in there yet. I'm probably just going to use this stiff wire. It's it's kind of a fake catenary system in a way, because it isn't actually under tension. Real catenary systems are always under tension. This is a fixed catenary system, so these are separate lengths of wire. We'll say wire because they're actually HO rail. I have a whole ton of HO track. I'm not super into HO, so a lot of it is kind of junked up. And those sort of junked up pieces of track are perfect for sacrificing the rails to build some catenary lines. And one great thing about this is it is modular, so you can remove the rail from any section of catenary line if you need to replace it or work on it or detail it, whatever. Now, what I found the most challenging part was finding a way to suspend the wire from the structure. Now, I ended up trying a lot of things, but what ended up working in the end was I have these little cup hooks. You can get them at a hardware store. You can get a little box of them for a couple bucks, like 40 of these for a couple bucks. And I cut off the end there so that it only sort of goes straight down, like you can see there. And I ended up just kind of putting this in a little jig, which was basically just like, let's say we have a hole in this wood. You screw it into the wood, and then you have this fixed, so you don't have to worry about holding that. You can sand off the bit that you're going to solder. And then what I've decided to do is take advantage of this system, and I'm using the little rail joiners that HO Rail has. And I'm soldering them to the cup hooks here, as you can see. So then what you can do is, when you have your lengths of rail, if it's on a curve, you can just put it to the profile of the third rail and then just kind of bend it and hold it in place to your liking. It doesn't even have to be exact. Just try to make sure the bias is towards however the rail is bending. And then just kind of plug it in where you're going to have your poles. And, well, there you have it. It's sturdy, it's solid, it works. Now, if you're worried about soldering, I'll give you a couple tips. I'm still not an expert on this, but make sure you have flux on your pieces or where you want your solder to flow. And make sure both pieces are very, very hot before you let go of something. And what I'd recommend doing to hold the fish plate in place while you're gluing it, while you're soldering it to the cup hook, is using a pair of needle nose pliers. Just kind of hold it by the end, because you don't want to hold that with your fingers, because then you'll get burned, and that's not really fun. Now, in terms of securing your poles to the base, right now these aren't here permanently. I've just got them glued in with hot glue, and they're actually pretty solid, so I might just leave that as is and not touch it. I might drill into the base here and have some screws secure this down to the benchwork. To cap this off, I have a little right-of-way cross-section that I've been using as sort of reference for concept. You can see everything that I've been talking about. The outer loop is going to be electrified, the inner loop is not, so that I could possibly run taller equipment there and not have to worry about it hitting the catenary lines, like my auto rack car and whatnot. And then I can have all my electric trains run on the inside, interurbans, electric locomotives, trolleys, whatever have you, whatever I might get in the future. And yeah, that's sort of it for the layout. In terms of having this be a actually hot system, by that I mean have it powered through overhead, get rid of the rollers on my electric equipment, and wire the pantographs up, I'm not quite sure. It's mostly just for show, although it could definitely work fine as a live catenary system. I haven't bothered to test it because I haven't bothered to rewire any of my locomotives that have pantographs. So here we are. Anyways, if you are building a catenary system and you needed help, I hope that this helped. I hope that this gave you ideas. One last thing to mention, the cost was extremely low. Like, let's say for a 10-inch section of catenary, so from one pole to another pole, it can't cost more than like $1. Again, every piece here is a matter of cents. I can buy like 20 telephone poles for like $5. I can buy this aluminum rod for a couple bucks for like a 2.5 foot length. So that again makes these worth a matter of cents. The cup hooks are a matter of cents. The rail, a lot of the times that's free. Rail joiners, a lot of the times it's free. Solder, it's a matter of cents because you're only using a tiny bit. Again, like, material cost is not a lot, and you don't even need too many tools to do this. The most advanced thing you need is a soldering iron. I also wanted to show a locomotive actually on these. As you can see when I raise it, there's very small disturbance in the wire, so it's a lot sturdier than I initially thought. There's also a lot cosmetically that I need to do to these. Obviously, it's a very rough around the edges system right now, but operations-wise, it is pretty solid. The only part you can really get wrong is not doing your solder joints correctly. If you do your solder joints correctly, you're not going to have any problems. This is pretty solid. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.